ever noticed that someone can make grammatical mistakes in English and still sound confident? That's not luck, that's communication. Hello, my English-speaking friends. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome and hello. My name is Nisreen. I'm a speech and language therapist, a linguist, and a TEFL-trained teacher. And I'm going to talk about 4 key points when it comes to trying to sound more confident in English. And it's not actually the obvious advice of what you think. We'll talk about having a model. We'll talk about actually using the language and how that can improve your confidence on its own. I'm also looking at non-verbal language and how that's really important in this overall communication. So not just thinking about the words, but also thinking about how you deliver those words. Let's get right into it. Now, the first thing is that if you want to sound confident, you will need a model. What I mean by a model is someone that you can copy with regards to how they're speaking English, whether that's because you think they sound really fluent yourself or because you know that they're a native speaker and you want to be able to get as close to how they sound and use the phrases that they sound. I like to think of using a model in terms of a spectrum. On the one hand, you've got straight up copying them. So they say something, you say it back. They say something, you say it back. On the other side of the spectrum, you have more of a delayed copying. So you're taking in a lot of what someone is saying and you're trying to understand the general message, but also some vocabulary that's in there that you might not be familiar with or that you've not used before. And you're learning through that. You can use those new words or pronunciation techniques in a situation that is relevant to you. I'll show you what I mean by that. So if we try to think of this in terms of a spectrum, on one hand we have got shadowing on one side, and then on the other side you have storing. And one of them lends themselves to immediate repetition. So shadowing is just when you hear a sentence, say in a video of someone speaking, and you immediately repeat that sentence to practice how they say it. So it lends itself more to pronunciation practice. And then on the other side, you've got the storing, which is basically where you are hearing new words in context, in real life scenarios. Say you're having a conversation with someone and they say a word that you don't fully understand, but you understand the context because you're part of the conversation. This lends itself to delayed repetition. And this also lends itself more towards vocabulary learning. So you're picking up on the words, new words that you'll perhaps use later because you're trying to learn the meaning, but also a little bit as well of the pronunciation can be picked up with obviously speaking, especially if they're a native speaker. If we said the sentence, I remind me. So that's grammatically not quite correct in English, so I'll just put the little star there. We would say, I remind myself. That's what we would actually say, I remind myself. Again, if you're using a shadowing technique, you're just picking up a sentence that they're saying and then repeating it back, not necessarily consciously thinking about the grammar or how they are saying it. In this aspect where we're storing it, you're in a real life situation and you say to someone, I remind me that it's very difficult to learn English. I need to practice regularly. The person, say they're a native speaker, could say back to you, me too, I remind myself that it's really hard to learn Japanese and I have to practice Japanese daily. What that other person has done is they haven't really corrected you explicitly. They've given you the model of what the correct way to say it is, and you can then pick up what they're doing and thinking, oh yes, that's how you say that word. It's not I remind me, it's I remind myself, and they have just shown me that. So in other words, the person has actually shown you how to say it without actually telling you. And that's actually a really good method of learning language. It's how we all really learn language. Remember, when you're learning language, it's not prescriptive. So it's not just learning a bunch of rules and then expecting to follow those rules naturally. I like to think of it more as trying to look at it through the lens of a child, in terms of how a child learns language, which is more similar to the storage or delayed repetition method. When a child speaks, they're often making grammatical errors, but adults tend not to notice it, or they overlook it because it's actually quite endearing, it's quite cute when a child speaks or is learning to speak. As adults, we're just excited that the child is picking up language and starting to speak and interact. But what's happening is they are actually making grammatical errors. So for example, a child could look up to their mum and say, "I was doing drawing, mummy," which isn't grammatical, but the mother is probably going to look back at the child playfully and say, "Oh, you were drawing, were you? Show me what you were drawing." So the mother will model back to the child correctly what they were supposed to say, but they're very unlikely trying to correct the child explicitly, saying, "You said that sentence wrong, say it again back to me correctly, please." The mother isn't going to sacrifice the joy of the interaction. The mum is just enjoying communicating with the child, and the mother knows what the child means. She doesn't want to correct the grammar at the expense of the interaction that she's getting from the child. It's similar when you're speaking English. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. As long as the person is getting the gist of what you're saying, chances are they're going to model back to you the correct form. And that way you can actually gain feedback indirectly without them explicitly constantly trying to correct you, if you take in what it is that they're saying and hopefully improve in your level of English as well. The last thing I'll say on this point is that native speakers also are constantly learning as well. Yes, that's right. Native speakers do learn their language constantly. And I take this as when I'm reading a book, for example, I don't always know every single word. There'll be some words that might be a little bit more complicated for me, especially if it's like an academic book, for example. It's very difficult to know all the words unless you're actually interested in the topic. For example, I don't expect other people to know medical terminology that I would know because I work in a hospital, because they're not necessarily doctors or they're not necessarily speech therapists like me. So it's really important to contextualize your learning. I just wanted to make this point to reassure you that it's a constant learning. It's not something that you stop doing. You always learn new vocabulary, new ways of saying things, and language is constantly evolving. The next point is, if you only consume English, that will improve your understanding, but it won't improve your confidence in speaking English. There is a saying that I use a lot in my practice as a speech and language therapist to patients, and that is, if you don't use it, you will lose it. So when I'm trying to give patients a plan, an exercise plan with regards to speech therapy, whether that's working on their language or working on their speech, often a lot of it is around trying to practice using language, practice their speech, moving their muscles, and it's really similar when it comes to learning a language. If you do not use the language, you aren't going to be very proficient in it because you're not using it, essentially. So you need to have situations where you do need to use the language. I have learned French when I was young. I picked up French from when I was about 5 years old. I used to go to a French club. I learned it in school, and even at university, I took electives in French classes. And I actually did pretty well in it, but it's incredibly rusty and my French has gone downhill significantly because I just haven't used it. It's really important that you practice and find situations that you know you have to use it. I have to corner myself to try and use another language. Here I live in the UAE and their official language is actually Arabic as well as English, which is actually not beneficial for me because I have a choice of being able to use English as well as Arabic, and which one is easier for me? It's going to be English. I do try and make an effort, especially there are patients that do not speak English, and that's a golden opportunity for me to practice my Arabic. It's hard because you feel quite self-conscious and you make mistakes, but that's the beauty of learning. It is in the mistakes that you learn. When it comes to learning a language, if you're gathering and taking in the language, it's great. It helps your listening, it helps your receptive language, but You really do need to be able to practice and use the language to grow in your speaking skills, and that will help you to become more confident. You don't learn confidence in speaking by just hearing other people speak. You learn confidence in speaking by practicing yourself. Some of the things you can do to practice your English is, firstly, recognize that you have the internet, which is an amazing asset. Having the internet means you have this plethora, this wide, vast resource tool of English speaking media that you can use to your advantage. You can use the internet to talk to real people. You can use the technology to talk to AI. If you have access to real people who can speak with you in English, that is gold. That is really going to be beneficial. So you could be speaking with people in groups or in forums online about interests that are really important to you. If you don't want to talk to a real person, or you feel a bit too shy or nervous, you can speak to AI. I've used ChatGPT in terms of speaking to it, and that can be really helpful as well in terms of just getting feedback. Another thing you can do is find platforms that help connecting you with native speakers, and you can just literally have conversation or have a lesson. It doesn't have to be anything too expensive. I actually use something called Engu. They're not sponsoring this video, but I have been using them for some time to connect mainly with Japanese and South Korean speakers who are trying to learn English, and we can either go through a material together or we can just have a free conversation, and it's really interesting and really nice to just connect with someone where there is low pressure. So something like that could also be useful for you. Regardless, whatever works for you, the key is to understand that you need to find scenarios where you are going to use and practice English. Don't worry about making mistakes. In fact, the more mistakes you make, the more you will improve, because you will remember not to make that mistake the next time. The third point when it comes to speaking confidently in English is there is this saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So this is all about delivery and how you are saying what you say and how that can come across to the other person. Confidence is not conveyed through vocabulary, it's conveyed through emotion. When someone is speaking, you get a sense of when someone is natural, and you get a sense of if they're being sincere and genuine. In other words, you understand if they believe what they say. When someone believes what they say, you really feel with that person. And that ultimately yields a stronger connection with that person. It's also a well-known fact that most of your communication is not actually in the words. So things like tone of voice and expression, like facial expression, all convey meaning just as much as your words do. For example, if I was to say this phrase and I said, "I'm sorry," or I said it like this, "I'm sorry," you would know which one sounded more genuine and which one sounded more sarcastic, even though I said the exact same two words. And this is a quality that I know is not specific to English. Non-verbal language is just as important as verbal language. In fact, there is a statistic that around 7% of communication is the words that you say. 7%, that's so low. You have other factors to help boost your confidence. It's not just the words you say. So it is very true. It's not what you say, it is how you deliver it, how you say it. One thing you can do to practice on your own is take any sentence, maybe this sentence as an example, but any sentence will do, and really try and master saying them in different emotions. For example, for this one, if you want to say Sally is getting married, try and say it sounding happy, try and say it sounding sad, try and say it sounding surprised, and try and say it sounding excited. So try and label an emotion and then say the sentence with that emotion to practice. Another thing you can do is practice by watching TV shows. Watch a dramatic scene of maybe a favorite movie that you have in English or a favorite TV show. Listen to the emotion in the actor or actress's voice. Try and recognize the emotion that is there. And for yourself in your daily life, in terms of speaking, you can practice emotion in daily interactions. What you can do is try and practice different topics. And I would start with light topics like everyday routine, explaining to someone what you're getting up to, hobbies, interests that you have, and then slowly working your way towards topics that might be a little bit more heavy and controversial, like things like politics or things that are a little bit more personal to you. The fourth point I want to make when it comes to speaking English confidently is that your body speaks before your words do. This goes back to the statistic that around 7% of your communication is verbal. And another leverage that you can use is your body language to help you come across as confident, engaged, cooperating, and this is really helpful and important when it comes to speaking English. Reason one is that it can help you become unstuck. So when learning a new language, often we can forget our words or we can't find the word that we mean. We can only find it in our native language, but sometimes using gesture to help, if you can use gesture to convey the meaning, can be really helpful to getting unstuck and actually conveying your message to the person listening. The other thing is that if you get stuck mid-sentence and you start the sentence, the chances are that the person listening to you could probably finish what you're saying. So they could actually repeat to you the word that you're trying to find, and then that will help you store that so that next time you won't forget it. The second reason to use gesture and body language is that gesture and body language generally make you look more confident. So using gestures and using body language is a form of communication and it invites presence. It makes you appear present to whoever's listening to you. So this can happen in a couple of scenarios. You could be presenting on stage, a presentation, and moving around on stage in a meaningful way is really important. It gives you what we call stage presence. It gives you that presence and it helps people to be engaged and really listen to what you're saying. It can also be useful in other scenarios, even one-on-one, and also in group meetings, work meetings, even online when you're doing video calls. I would recommend showing the upper part of your body so that you have the opportunity to show your gestures, show your body language, convey what you mean. And all this is really important and helpful to make you look more confident when speaking English. Something I'd recommend for you to do is to film yourself when you're trying to communicate something. Say you have a presentation that you need to say at work, or say you have a difficult conversation that you need to have with your boss or your colleague or even a friend. I would highly recommend recording yourself and then watching it back. Maybe mute yourself and just look at your body language. Are you moving around? Are you rocking like this? Are you showing any sort of nervousness when you're communicating to the camera? I know it's a little bit artificial and it's not the actual scenario, but it can be a really good practice method when it comes to looking at your body language, understanding what you're doing, and then correcting it if you feel that actually that's not how I want to present myself. I want to be able to use my body language a little bit more effectively or a little bit more purposefully to convey what I mean. When it comes to watching people with their body language, again, you could do similarly to the previous point of looking or watching a dramatic scene in a show, TV show, or movie, and see how they're using their body language in certain scenes. Or one of my favorite sitcoms is watching someone like Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean is a global famous sitcom. And the reason he's very famous is because he communicates with everyone, because he doesn't actually speak, but he shows a lot and does a lot and is very kind of theatrical in his approach when he is doing the show. And of course, it's very funny because it's exaggerated, essentially. So that would be something that I use even with my patients to really drive home the importance of body language and showing what you mean, not just saying what you mean. Those are a couple of points when it comes to sounding more confident in English. I hope it's been helpful. Let me know in the comments what you struggle with or what you find easy when it comes to trying to convey confidence, be it in your native language or in English. And if you want to learn more about speaking British English, check out my video here and like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video.